Okay, talking about Yummy. Gonna go into basic ways to stop the deck, its game plan, how the deck functions, ways I would go about beating it, deck building it, general stuff like that. Just to start off, basic effects. Cookie, Cupsy, Lollipo. If you control Link 1 or level 2 Synchro, special summon this card from your hand, inherent summon. Does not activate. Then they all have two effects. One if summoned normally, one if summoned off of a synchro. Cookie is minus 1,000 attack if summoned normally. If summoned off of a synchro, pop the card monster instead. Cupsy, on summon, search any Yummy card. If special off of a synchro, you draw a card instead. Lollipo is shuffle anything. If summoned off of a synchro, banish it instead. So you take resources out of your opponent's grave. The new one, Marshmallow. If you control no monsters or all the monsters you control are like Beast, special summon this card from your hand. The reason the colon's important is because that means this card activates in hand. That will be important later for ways that you can beat this deck. So, on summon, you can add a Yummy Spell and Trap card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can get your surprise back if there's a field spell chilling in there. Whatever. And then it has the effect, if it's summoned off of a synchro, you can place a Yummy field spell or Yummy continuous spell or trap from your deck or banishment face upon your field instead. So SP no longer just completely ruins this deck by banishing the minion. Now you can't kill your opponent. Ah, shoot, shucks, I can't do anything. Marshmallow fixes that issue. On to the field spell. You have a Croaky and Minion. Minion, 500 attack boost for each light beast on the field. So if you're playing the mirror match, your guys get boosted for however many monsters on their board they have. So it can make it really easy if you can remove their field spell to kill them, because it makes your guys huge. And then if you control any Link 1 monster, it can be Link Spider, it can be Almirage, it can be Hagari. It could, like, if for some reason you talents took a Link 1 Magical Musket dude. As long as you control Link 1, you can target a Yummy monster in your graveyard, a level 1 Yummy monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. Crazy good. And then a Croaky, if you synchro summon a Light Beast Synchro monster, it can be any of the Synchro 2s, it can be Starham, whatever. You target a card your opponent controls, destroy it. Then if a face-up monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one Yummy monster from your deck. That can be anything. If you have a Nib token and your opponent remove the Nib token, cool. I'm summoning a Cupsy out of my deck. Awesome. And then they both have the effect where they can shuffle 2 Yummy monsters from grave or banished. So you can, if your Link 2s get banished or all your Link 1s get removed by Winter Cherries or whatever, if you can get the field spell in grave, you can put them back in the deck and then put this back in the deck alongside it. Surprise has 3 effects. Target 2 Light Beast, 2 cards your opponent controls determined in the hand. The important keyword there is them, so you don't have to banish all of them. Avarice, Pot of Avarice, because this says shuffle all into the deck. So say one of the bodies gets removed or whatever, you will still return the remaining cards. So that is something important to keep in mind. It is also a reborn or summon from hand, but it can't attack directly this turn. Or you can turn a field spell from your graveyard or your field to your hand and then place one. So you can use it to kind of dodge your opponent's interactions. Like, say you placed your Croaky, they're trying to remove a Croaky, but you need the Croaky up, you can surprise, bounce, place it, cool stuff like that. Or say you had a minion chilling and you had all your guys in attack and they try to go SP banish it, and it's like, oh shoot, okay, I'm going to bounce the field spell and then play it back. And then you're chilling, you still have the attack boost and the field spell's not gone. but that one hardly comes up. It's just nice to have. The only two that matter are the special from hand or grave and bounce. Basically 4 cards. 2 of yours, 2 of your opponents. And then the extra deck is the Link one. If it's special summoned in any way off of a Reborn, off the Synchros, if you link summon into it, it can go ahead and place a field spell from your deck. And then it's quick effect during either main phase or your opponent's battle phase. Pay 100 life. Immediately after it resolves, you can synchro summon using monsters you control as material, but it has to include a Yummy. You can't just be like, cool, I'm going to have a level 3 and a level 1, and I'm just going to synchro into Herald now. If none of those monsters are Yummy, that does not work. You have to use a Yummy if you're going to use this effect to synchro. And then all the Synchro 2s have the same effect. If your opponent activates a card or effect, return them to the extra deck as cost. Special summon up to 2 Yummies from your graveyard. Does not target. And then they have all their own special effects. You have Cupsy that can special 2 add 2 Yummies from your deck to your hand, and then you discard a card. Cookie is a Book of Moon of up to 2 monsters. And Lollipo is a Reborn of up to 2 monsters. The other special thing these guys have is you can treat any Link 1, any Link Spider, Almirage, Linkaribo if it was unbanned, they can be treated as a level 1 tuner if you are making these, which is important to know. So I could have an Almirage, and if I special a Lollipo from hand, I can go straight into a Cupsy Yummy Way from that point. It does not have to be a Snatchy, which is awesome. So that's basically what all the cards do in a general census. Now, talking about Marshmallow. This card changes the whole dynamic of the deck because you now have to kind of pick where you're going to normal, whether you normal summon the Cupsy or you want to wait till later in your combo to summon the Marshmallow. Say you wanted to use the Surprise to continue extending because they hand trapped you in a weird spot, or they used some kind of interaction. You can use the Surprise, and you can use the Marshmallow to get it back without having to clog up your zones and waste bodies to make a Nari. We can now just do that with Marshmallow. And going forward, I may be taking Onari out of my deck. Because the main reason we use this is it allowed for anti-nib lines. Which, the reason this was good is because we had to use Surprise to get a Synchro 2 back. And then reset the Surprise and make this. We don't have to do that now. Because Marshmallow exists. And then, what's it called? This had the ability to burn. So if you played the Mirror, or you played against Vanquisol or something that put an additional field spell, you just had a way to burn in time. There were game states where I summoned this card, I crashed it, I took 300, and I burned it for 15, and I would be up in life points in time. Just because I knew I was going to be able to extend it. We don't really need that anymore. The time rules changed that. So, Onari is probably a card I'm not going to play going forward, because I'm also just not playing Droplet or anything in my deck, so there's no additional utility with the Onari. Because Marshmallow essentially serves the purpose that this card did. So it does open up a slot in our extra deck, which is awesome. On top of now the game plan of people just making SP and banishing minion and being like, cool, you never can kill me. And that famous Triff clip where he sets an Ash and the Yummy player could never do anything with him, that doesn't exist anymore because of Marshmallow. It allows you to just get that back. Which is awesome. Now, that's basic function of all the cards. So, the way I would go about beating this deck, Ash, Bell, and Ogre are all great cards against the deck. They all do something against it, in a way that is impactful. Ogre, I especially like if I can chain it alongside a Imperm or a Veiler. And typically, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for the Link 1 to hit the board. When they go to activate it to get the field spell, I'm chaining Ogre and then chaining Imperm or Veiler to the Snatchy. Because typically, what people do once you do that is they go summon Snatchy, effect, place field spell, and you chain Ogre. If they have a level 1 body, they are just going to chain it to Synchro. But if you chain Imperm or Veiler, now they don't Synchro, the Ogre removes the body, and they don't get their field spell anymore. So they are now forced to have additional extenders in their hand in order to do that. Which you can make reads here and there on your opponent on whether you believe they have extenders, whatnot. The only time that scenario really comes up, though, is if they're just going like normal summon Cupsy or normal summon Lollipo or Cookie or whatever, and they're not starting with Obedient School. If they start with Obedient School, then I'm typically going to save the Ogre for either Metal. If they go Obedient School, I'm saving it for the Starham. Reason being, if they want this Starham body, they have to discard 2 more cards to special the card back. Which is a real feels bad. Because you just basically rip 2 cards from their hand and they're just down a ton of resource just so they could make a singular Herald. So saving Ogre for that combo is really good because then they're just ending on like a Synchro, a Link, and a level 1, and now they're forced to be able to get into Metal Marcher and to get to their Herald, which that takes a lot of work and effort on your turn, and you're going to have an additional card, so it's really hard to perform that. So that is one way you can just completely cut off the Herald, is by doing that. So the Ogre, you just have to be smart with where you use it. The Ash, I use it, if they go like normal summon Cupsy, I'm typically ashing it, either there or the Synchro 2. Or if they start with Obedient School, I'm just dropping the Ash and being like, do you have a second one, or do you have the ability to play? Cool. So it's really just making a read on what your opponent kind of has. Because the other thing to keep in mind, too, is say you burn the Ash on a Cupsy, and then at some point you remove all their bodies and their board is now free, they can just now drop Obedient School and you get hard punished when you could have saved the Ash. So you kind of just need to gauge how your opponent's playing and kind of make a read on them. But those are the targets that I'm typically hitting, is the Obedient School, the Cupsy, and the Cupsy. Yummy Way, the Synchro 2. Because if they're doing the 1-card combo, like they just summon a level 1, go into Snatchy, get Field Spell, and then make the Cupsy, it makes them play really awkwardly, because if they don't have more level 1 bodies in their hand, and you Ash it there, 99% of the time, they are chaining that Cupsy and bouncing itself back into the extra deck to summon back the 2 bodies they just used to make that Cupsy, and now they don't get 2 more bodies out of their deck to continue playing. And the only real spot they can go from at that point is make Lollipo, and then Lollipo summon 2 back. And then they have to play really awkwardly, and they typically don't pass on a Herald then. But that's if they just summon a normal body and they don't have the extenders in hand. So that is just something you just have to gauge. Ghost Spell, I'm always just saving for when they go to tag out the Synchros. I'm never using it on Minion. I'm never using it on Surprise. The only time I'm ever using it on Surprise is if you're playing Dark Ruler or Droplet and you've negated their whole board and they go Surprise to Reborn. If you Ghost Spell it, they have nothing. Their board does nothing. You now just play completely for free, and if they have cards in hand, and they're probably hand traps, and you just have to play through hand traps at that point, which most of the top decks can play through hand traps. So if you're running Bell for it, I would just save it for the Synchro 2s when they're trying to do it on your turn to be like, okay, Chain Lollipop, put back someone back 2, you Bell them. Now that cuts them off from 2 bodies, and they no longer have the Synchro 2 to be able to like, oh, summon body, now I'm going to use Snatchy, make Metal Marcher or Starham or whatever, and make Herald. So it can cut off another line for them. The other card, Nib. Nib is insane against them. It may feel bad because a lot of lines they do can just play through it and they continue playing. But their board becomes way weaker if you do Nib them. So the Nib is not useless in this matchup at all. Just because a deck plays through it still does not, like, it makes the Nib good. Especially if they Obedient School, because they can't make Herald before you go attempt to Nib, and they can't go into a line where they make Herald early. So you just hold it till the end of the combo. They attempt to leave main, you drop Nib on them, and now if they want to extend, they have to use Surprise, and if they play the Onari, they can do an anti-Nib line, which I can show off. It's fairly simple. But Nib feels great. All these hand traps in the main deck are great against everything, including the mirror. Fua is self-explanatory. They have to give you a minimum of 2 to 3 draws to make a competent end board into this card. The other card as well, Pyrrhulia is not useless in this matchup at all. Especially because they have one more body in their deck now. They want to summon from hand to continue extending. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And if you are ashing them, if you're ghost spelling them, imperming, Veiler, Purge, like if you're cutting them off on like, okay, Cupsy Search, now they make Snatchy, and you imperm it, and they just activate Surprise and summon the Cupsy back from grave. Stuff like that, they are burning extenders that prevent them from playing around the Pyrrhulia. Now, if they want to continue playing, they have to play into it. So if you're playing a deck like Dracotel, like Yummy, like Crystron Canine, like any of those decks that are forcing extenders out of your opponent's hand in the Yummy matchup, Pyrrhulia feels great because they have to give you draws if they want to do anything to make an end board. So both Charmies feel awesome, in my opinion. Meows is fake. Like, if they start with Obedient School, they give you 1, maybe, big maybe, 2 draws. But if they play really conservative, they could give you 0. And you just hand rip yourself, and it's just like, man, this sucks. So Meows just is not real against this deck. Another card that I love in this matchup is Phantasme, because this targets. So does Cookie, and the Cookie in the main deck, and SP, and like whatever else. If they try to Veiler you or Imperm you, or if they do anything that is trying to target something on your board, Phantasme just prevents that. You discard a card, you negate, you destroy the card. Crazy good. It's insane. On top of the Phantasme, timed correctly, can just go battle phase and punch over a Herald. Because at that point, you are clearing that Herald, and most of the time, they just let that Herald go. Because you drop the Phantasme on them, and then you go battle. If they can't go Cookie Pop it, they can't go Cookie Book it, they can't go Snatchy Target it, because if they try to do any of those, they have to burn 2 interruptions to keep their Herald alive. So most of the time, if you summon a Phantasme and declare battle, you are clearing that Herald with that Phantasme, which feels awesome, because you also just pot a greeted and put a card back, which you just sculpted your hand at that point. So Phantasme, I'm putting in 100% of the time, going second, sometimes first, because you can just use it on your turn, on your opponent's turn after you made your board. Just drop it to draw more cards and hopefully draw into like Bell or Purge or like Ash or like a Nib for if they're trying to push just to insulate your board. Phantasme feels great into the Yummy matchup. The other thing too is Droplet and Dark Ruler. Those cards have been hit or miss for me. I don't think they are completely useless in this matchup. I think they're great. They do a lot. Because if they end on the board of like Herald, Link 1, Synchro 2, Level 1, and a set surprise, and you have a Ghost Spell paired with that Dark Ruler, their board does nothing. It's so good. Or if you have the Dark Ruler and you use the Ash and you cut them off from getting to their surprise, it feels awesome as well because you just dealt with the entire end board and now you just have to break it and deal with their follow up, which is awesome. So Dark Ruler and Droplet are not completely dead, but the only issue is Dark Ruler and Droplet don't feel great into the other decks. All these hand traps, Ogre, Bell, Ash, Fua, Perulia, Purge, Imperm, Nib, Veiler, Phantasme, all of those cards feel phenomenal into the other top decks right now. Dark Ruler, not so much. Just because a lot of the boards are so layered that it just doesn't matter. The other thing, too, that I do like is Evenly, if you can deal with the Herald. The Evenly feels really good if there's no Herald, because they have no way to prevent the card. There's nothing that they can play in their main deck or their extra besides Herald. So all you have to do is prevent Herald of the Arclight, and you can just Evenly them for free. But that's essentially where I would use, what hand traps I would use, and where I would use them. I yapped for too long. Now, I did link the basic combo lines up above, under Obedient School and under just like with the level 1 body. They do change, but slightly, but very minimally with the Marshmallow existing. The Marshmallow, the biggest thing that it does now is it basically, it just lets you extend through a lot more interruptions. It's just like the March Hare, like it just helps invalidate more hand traps in your opponent's hand, which feels great, and it also just invalidates a lot of ways people are trying to beat the deck before. It just makes those ways of beating it way worse. Now to show off the Ante-Nib combo line. This is without Link Spider. And this works under Obedient School. So I'll just show that real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate Obedient School. You're going to get your 3 bodies out of the deck. Cookie, Lollipo, and Cupsy. Or if you wanted to, you could even get Marshmallow out of the deck and have... These are the bodies that I typically want to have in rotation. I want Marshmallow, Cookie, and Cupsy. These are your 3 best bodies. That's why Lollipo in my list right now is at 2. Is Lollipo just feels lackluster compared to the utility that these offer. Then from here, I'm almost always just getting rid of the Cupsy and making Snatchy, using the Snatchy effect. If you want to play around the Nib, even better, you can place a Croaky here. And that's what I'm going to do just to kind of show. Because we have the bodies to be able to extend, and it just doesn't matter. We're then going to link these two off. Or not link these two off. We're going to Synchro into our Cupsy. We're going to declare the effect of the Cupsy. What we're going to do is, say we didn't have this Lollipo and this Cupsy and this Marshmallow. Whatever. We just had hand traps, right? So just your only card to play was Obedience School. What we're gonna do is you haven't summoned any of their bodies, but you want to get Cupsy because this is how you're gonna get to your Snatchy, and then you just pick whatever body you want. In this scenario, since we summoned the Cupsy, Marshmallow, and Cookie, I want Lollipo. Then I have all 4 names in rotation. Then from here, you just discard your random card. That does not matter what it is. It's not relevant to this line at all. We're then going to special the Cupsy because we have our Synchro 2 on the board. And we're going to trigger the Cupsy effect to get Surprise from our deck to our hand. From here, link 1 into your Snatchy. And then you're going to Synchro. And we're going to make our Lollipo. And we do have the Lollipo extender. So we're chilling there. And we're just, since we have the level 1, you can special summon the Link 1, and then you can special summon any level 1 body. Then from here, what you can do is take this and this, and you're going to make your March Hare. You're going to declare the March Hare, discard another random card, and you're going to summon back the level 1. You don't want to summon back the Synchro 2 whenever you make Starham. You always have to summon the level 1, because the Starham turns the level 1 into a tuner. And Starham is not a tuner himself. That is one thing to keep in mind, and people forget that. Starham is not a tuner. So you have to summon back a level 1 if you want to make Herald with this. Then from here, if you want to check Nib, you can say end of main. Cool. The only downside of that is you don't get this face down if you are trying to force the Nib out. Because typically what you do is you set this and you say cool. But let's say, for example, we go here, any responses, end of main, chain Nib. Cool. So all this goes, and we get our token, right? What we're going to do to extend this out is we're going to activate the surprise. Summon back our body. Summon back, not anybody. You want to summon back the Cupsy specifically. Just because it has the 22 stat line. There was one thing I did mess up, and I do want to correct, and I'm now realizing. Off this Cupsy, you do not want to add Lollipo. You want to add Cookie. Because the Cookie has the effect, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses 1,000 attack. That's important, because Nib is 3k. Cupsy is 2,200 defense. So what we can do is we can summon the Cookie, activate the Cookie effect, targeting the Nib on our opponent's field, making it 2,000 attack permanently. So now they can't just go battle phase, crash over the Cupsy. Now we have nothing. We can't do anything. We can't play. Damn, like our game's over. They just win now because we have nothing. Because they just went punch with the Nib. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Off the Cupsy, you want to make sure you have a Cookie in hand. So you can summon it, target the Nib, make it 2,000 attack. From here, this Nib token is a light. That is important. Because you can link off the Nib and the Cookie into an Ari. So if you want to do this Nib line, you do have to play Onari in your deck. That is one thing to keep in mind. Because you can use the Nib token and the Cookie, because it only requires one beast and a light monster. Cookie is your beast. Then Onari can reset your surprise. And you basically pass on this. The other thing I did forget was the Akroki. You can also just use this to get the Cookie. Get another, not a Cookie. You can get the Lollipo out of your deck. So just to rewind real quick. So so say they nib us, right? So we don't have anything, and we have the token, right? So right after the nib, we want to declare this to special summon the Lollipo out of our deck, giving us another level 1. And then we can go surprise, special back the Cupsy. And then from here, I would special the Cookie, target the nib, and do the same thing where you make the Onari. And then you reset the surprise, and then we're able to link this off into another Snatchy. So then from that point, we can put this back to summon, and this is in our opponent's turn when they activate something. Special summon the Lollipo, special summon, I don't know, Cupsy, draw another card off the Cupsy, and then we can go Lollipo, summon back this, shuffle, pop a card, and we can go, or we could even go, what's it called? Summon a link 1, and then we can just declare this, and then go, cool, we're going to synchro, we're going to make Lollipo, special, declare this again, this, and you go make this, and you declare this, you get him back, right? And then this, and it's like they never nibbed you, which is the important part. And then you're chilling your home free. You still have this surprise, so you can go and you do whatever, and it just doesn't matter. That's typically how I would play around Nib if I continue to play Onari. If not, you are able to make the Link Spider when they do nib you, and then you just take the level 1 in the Link Spider into Cookie, and then you just pass, and then as soon as they do something, you go Cookie, bounce, summon back 2, and then effect, bounce, summon back 2, and you just summon all your bodies from that point. So, yeah. And then the basic combo line, just to show, I don't want this to go too long. I've already gone on for 32 minutes, but hopefully that kind of explains what general hand traps are good against it, where I would stop the deck. Hopefully that nib combo kind of helps, so it can kind of give you an idea of how you can kind of prevent them from getting that far, and continue extending. Hopefully you got a little more understanding on these, but I'm going to do this with all the other decks. This is just the first one.